Okay, so I'm going to edit this next picture, one from Lytham Jetty, which I took on the 23rd of August. It's a picture of a place that I've been to many times, and I've got some nice pictures from here, but there's one shot that I've always wanted that I've never had. I've got to wait for the right weather conditions to be in place really for it to work. A few things that need to happen are I need medium and high clouds, not low clouds, so that when the sun sets, the gap on the horizon would be lit up by the setting sun. I need a southerly or a northerly wind, so when I'm looking down this jetty it's coming directly at me. Also need high tide to coincide with sunset, or the tide height, which wants to be under this board just on the top of these, to be around about sunset, so if the light was right then you get a nice shot. And also it needs as well a wind speed of probably less than 4 miles an hour. The Clear Outside app was displaying all those characteristics, so checked them the night before and it looked good, so I'm thinking that I'm going to go here the next day. I would always check them again at lunchtime the next day. Had a quick look at dinner time and everything still looked the same, so I thought, yeah, we're good to go. So I give Pete Corser a ring and asked him, does he want to join me? I'm going up here, so me and Pete went up. About an hour's drive, and as we walked down to the pier there was nobody else there taking a picture. Sometimes if there's somebody else then you're going to be a bit snookered. You can really only get 2 people maximum taking this picture. You've both got to be dead in the middle, but if one of you's got the tripod higher or lower than the other by maybe 9 or 10 inches, then you can both get the picture. Which needs to be like geometrically correct, I suppose. So once we got set up, just check things like try and get it as central as possible, try and get the horizon straight. It's a bit difficult in camera sometimes, but it looks pretty much okay. It's not perfect, but I can sort that. And basically focus the camera, and then once I've focused it, I'll switch the lens to manual, so any other shots I take from there on are not trying to focus, especially if you've got an ND filter on it. It might be dark, so it might not focus. So I would basically focus probably on that board there. That's using the hyperfocal focusing technique, which is basically focusing about 1/3 into the scene. So that'd be 1/3, that's possibly 2/3, and the horizon would be 3/3. And that's a method that I use 99.9% of the time when I'm doing landscape or seascape stuff. So it will be sharp front to back, and that's the way I focus and get things like I do, I suppose. So it was just basically a bit of a waiting game after that, just to let the tide come in, get the filters in place and things. I do a few test shots as I'm waiting and things. There's nothing worse than kind of being rushed a little bit. When the water gets to the right height, you've literally got about three or 4 minutes to get the shot. And if I want to do maybe 1 or 2 long exposures, that it doesn't give you much time for error, I suppose. I might take 1 or 2 shots, might whip the 10 stop or the 6 stop out, depending on what I use, and just get a normal shot, just for the sake of getting it, I suppose. But you quite know, I do quite like doing a lot of long exposure shots, so that's predominantly what I went for. So as the time went by, that's 3 minutes to 8. That's 8 o'clock. It's coming in. I think that's with all the filters. I think it was a 6 stop. And the Lee 0.6 hours grad. That's 8 o'clock. That's 7 minutes past, and that's 1/4 past, which is about the time I thought that the tide would be in place, looking at previous shots and working out from fishing for tides, or tides for fishing, whatever it's called, website. So I wasn't too far away with my estimation. So that is the shot, and this is going to be this is the shot that I'm going to edit. So this was taken about 18 minutes past, and it's just short of 3 minutes, f11 ISO 250. I would have probably done a base or a shot before this just to check what the exposure time would be, but as it's obviously getting towards the end of the day, the light's falling, it probably said to me it needed to be maybe a 2-minute 15-second shot or a 2-minute shot. I would have probably used 3 minutes, which is what I've nearly done there. I think it did say 2 minutes, and I bottled it at 3, and I bailed out at just 10 seconds before. The reason I do that is as the light falls, the exposure is going to go darker and darker. So if you did it to the same time as what it suggested, when the light's falling, you're going to underexpose. It's slightly underexposed anyway, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's really how the shot panned out, to be fair. So I'm going to edit it in Lightroom predominantly. Just one or two little bits in Photoshop, but here we go. What I do first of all is I will apply any lens corrections to the picture, so that any distortions in the lens and things are removed. If you look at these boards here, you'll see that they're actually a bit of a bent shape. They're actually straight in real life, and that's down to the characteristics of the lens. So if you pull that in and out, you'll see that that straightens that out okay. Obviously it brightens the edges of the picture. This lens has got a natural vignette at 16mm, which can be a good thing at some times, but today I'll just edit it in my own way. That chromatic aberration will just remove any issues with lens diffraction, I think it is. I'm not sure, but it's something that you just check. I can't see it anyway because I'm colourblind, but I always tick it. So that's sorted that out. The horizon I think is a little bit out, and that board is, I can select, or I can correct, should I say, both of those in one go. Click on the transform module and click on guided, and I need at least 2 guides on this picture in order for it to straighten everything up. So everything's nice and straight, so the boards will be parallel with the horizon. So we put one on the bottom there and just drag it over and get it to the same part of the land. Come on, where have you gone? Just trying to get it on the bottom of that dark section. There we go. So that's one, and I'm gonna put another one in the groove of these 2 boards in the middle. So around about there to there. And when I let go of this one, you'll just see it just jump around a little bit and straighten itself up. So there, that's done. So if it's just toddle that on and off, you can see the difference. There we go. It doesn't look much, but it's right. And if it's wonky like that, I probably won't sleep until it's sorted because I'm a bit strange like that. So that's sorted that out. I just need to make sure that this jetty marker is dead central. So if I go back to, or go to the crop tool, I'm not going to crop it, but if you cycle through O, it will put different patterns on the tool, crop tool. That's a rule of thirds, rule of whatever, fifths, if there's such a rule. But that's the one that will show me if something's dead central, so it's obviously slightly off. So what I will do, I'm just going to pull it in from the top right hand corner. Will it be the bottom left, top left? Sorry, from there. And I'm just bothered about the left and right bit, not worried about the horizon. So that's pretty much okay there. So I'm just going to crop that so that now that is dead central. So that's now geometrically good to go. So the next thing I'm going to look at, I'm going to say that obviously the top and bottom of the picture is way too bright. I want emphasis to be on the sky, which was a lovely shade of blue as the sun set and the clouds moved out of the way. So I'm just basically going to darken the top and bottom down, and I'm going to use a linear gradient on the top. So I'll pull down from the top and just hold shift to round about there. that will put the grad in place, and I'm basically just going to pull the exposure down a little bit. I'll probably go to the extreme and then just back it off so I can see what feels right. Probably around about there, I would say, about 1.5 looks okay. And I'm going to also just put a bit of colour back in the sky. It was a little bit bluer than that. And I'm just going to just put a bit of blue temperature back into it. So I'm going to put it to probably a bit too much. Maybe around about there, 24, that looks okay. And just top that off. There we go. It's obviously brought out some of the streaks as well in there. I don't know if any clarity would help with the streaks a little bit, a tiny little bit. Might just put a little bit of clarity on that, about 20. So that's okay for the top one. I'm going to put another one for the bottom. So I'm going to create another linear gradient. And I'm going to pull that up. I want it to be dark for quite a lot of the bottom. So I'm going to pull it to around about there. And I'm just basically going to pull the exposure down and just see where this feels about right in comparison to the light at the front. It's probably a little bit too dark. Maybe around about there looks pretty much okay. So that's okay, top to bottom, we're quite happy with that. It's obviously darker on the left side of the picture to the right side. The sun was setting to the right, but the sun isn't part of this scene, so nobody would really know that. So I'm just going to put another grad in and just pull it right, left to right. I'll pull the exposure correct, left to right. So again, another linear gradient, and just pull that, maybe pull it from there across, and just pull the exposure down a little bit. It won't need much, to be fair, not like the others. I think there, that looks okay. So that's kind of adjusted, let's say, the exposure evenly across the scene, which is just more pleasing. If I switch all these masks off at once, you'll see that there's obviously there's no real, I wouldn't say focal point, but it's just you don't know where to look, sort of thing. Whereas if we do that, put the masks on, then we can see there's more emphasis into the middle of the picture. So what I'm going to do next is just put another filter in, but I'm going to make the sky bluer and give it a bit more punch. The clouds are a bit whiter. So I'm going to put a new mask in, but I'm going to put a radial gradient in and just pull that from the center out to something like there. And I'm going to give some, increase the contrast on it, just to give it a bit of punch. I'm going to put the whites up just to get the clouds a little bit whiter. So maybe there. And just increase the clarity just a little bit, just to see if it just gives a little bit more emphasis, which it does. So I'm okay with that. So let's just toddle that on and off. So let's just brighten it up a little bit, giving it a bit more punch. I'll just pull that out to the edge a little bit more. So that's okay. Obviously that filter would have affected the pole. It would have applied those settings to everything in that scene, so the pole, but you can eradicate that. But the pole is so thin, and I don't really see any issues with it. If it was maybe something, a bigger object in the scene, maybe a boulder or something like that, or something like a boat or something, and you wanted to not apply that, you can actually subtract from a mask, so I could subtract a certain level of luminance or colour, but maybe that's for another day. It's not something I'm going to do on this picture today, so that's okay. So I'm alright with that. So I'm kind of looking at it still, and I'm thinking it still needs to be a little bit more blue, so I'm going to just change the temperature again a little bit. So, but I'm not going to do it with the temperature slide. I'm just going to get the blues adjusted with saturation, and I'm just going to increase the blues a little bit. So you can see a lot of it is blue. That's just the blue channel only. I'll just give it a little bit just to see where I think it goes. So it's probably around about there, looks okay-ish. 35. I think that probably looks okay, to be fair. And what I do notice is that the blacks are clipping somewhere, probably in the shadows of this board, and the highlights or the whites don't go all the way to the right. I'm not going to take the highlights all the way to the right, but I will just move them over slightly. I'll just adjust the black one first. I'll just pull that over so that that's not clipping, but I will just adjust the whites so that we get the histogram a little bit further to the right, which is that looks okay. So I'm kind of okay with that. So I've just did it with some local adjustments with the graduation filters and radial filters, and some overall global adjustments too, but quite subtle in for the whole of it. The only other thing I'll do, I'm just going to put a little bit more of a vignette on it. So I'm going to go to the effects panel and just pull that down a little bit, not by much, probably around about there. I think looks okay. Just toddle that on and off. It's not over obvious, but I think it just helps to keep your eye settled in the middle of the frame. So that's pretty much okay. There's a bit of noise in this picture as well, I noticed. You can probably see it there. If I put this up to, let's have a look, 300, it looks quite bad. I mean, that's zoomed in a lot, but a lot of it is probably through some of the editing. And some of the adjustments, maybe especially the clarity around this area. Clarity is a bit of a villain for doing destroying pictures, so I'll need to address that noise, but I'm not going to use the details tab. I'll switch them off. I don't really use them that much, to be fair. I've got a couple of programs that will sort sharpening and noise out. And also I just need to get rid of these buoys and that little bit of debris there on the seabed, and I think there's a spot there, dust spot. I think there's one or two here and there. So what I'm going to do is open this picture up in Photoshop, and I'm going to basically clone out these two little bits here. It's a better cloning tool than Lightroom. Lightroom's sometimes a bit weird. Just zoom up on that, and I will just select spot healing brush and just make sure I capture that and the shadow, or the reflection, not the shadow, the reflection. And same again with that one. It's okay. I think there's an oil rig there as well, that's going. And it's got, I know this is one or two hot pixels on this picture. I think there's a dust spot there too. I think when you do a long exposure, especially with this camera, I do tend to get a few hot pixels on long exposures, 3 or 4 minutes sometimes. I'm not going to go and find them all, but there's one or two scattered around. I'll just do them another time. But we'll just go and have a look at these two bits here. Just get rid of that spot there because that's a bit obvious, and this is that mud. Get rid of that, and we'll do that one while we're there. So that's kind of it. And I think what else there was, some lights on the left hand side up here, isn't there? Oh, we've got rid of those, haven't we? Oh, I think we might have cropped them off. There's two little lights there on the edge, but they've gone with the crop. Get rid of that. There we go, that's okay. And the only other thing I saw was some chewing gum, I think it is on this board here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And there's some there as well on that one. I'm going to leave that. That looks like a bit of distortion or whatever in the wood, so I'm pretty much okay with that. So that's really it, to be fair, regarding just cleaning that image up. I'm just going to get rid of the noise and sharpen it a little bit. So I'm going to go again to filter and Topaz Labs and open denoise up, and have a look at it. I think anything to the left of this slider is unedited or unadjusted, and anything to the right is adjusted. I'm going to leave the noise at 23 and just see what the sharpening wants to be at 31. Just want to make sure that I don't get any white crispy bits on the edges. It will probably bring a lot of texture out in this middle bit and the boards. If we slide this across, we'll see the difference. I think it's quite obvious, so it looks okay. Maybe slightly over sharpened a little bit. Just pull that back a touch and let that work. I'm kind of okay with that. And we'll just move this over to where the noise was. It was a bit obvious down this side. We'll just pull that over, and that's got rid of it. It looks okay before and after. I'm sure you can see that, so that's fine. So I'm going to apply that. I'd usually get all the spots out of it, but that's just a boring task, so I'm not going to do that tonight. If I was going to do anything with it. So that's pretty much the edit. If I do Control S, it will save that back in Lightroom. And I will just resize this for club competition. So I'll use my little Ray Pro plugin. Go to 1600. Click on OK. It will open up it in a new window. OK that. And close that. And that's at 1600. Just go and check image size 1600 on the width. Sharpen wise, it's a bit difficult to see on this monitor because it's made it a bit smaller, but I'll probably go for around about the third one, but I'm just going to lower the opacity on that layer to about maybe 30, 33, so it's not too crispy when it gets on the projector. So that's kind of it really, so I'm just going to save that as a JPEG in the folder. Just overwrite that image, which was test one before, and that's that. So we'll get rid of that and go to Lightroom. So this is put another edit, or the edited TIFF. This is a TIFF file that it saved from Photoshop. So that's the fully edited version, and if I go back and find the CR2 1, which was that one, so 15 and 12. So I'll load 15 up, which is the initial image that we edited. If I just reset that, that'll go back to how it came out of the camera as a raw file. So that's before and after. Subtle adjustments really, but quite effective. So I hope you've learned something from that and took away some little techniques, which is what I sometimes use. You can't always apply the same techniques to every picture. I could probably run across some of these pictures and apply it, but if you've got a different scene altogether, you can use the same tools but in different ways and things like that. So that's just a bit of an insight into how I edited this picture. So thanks for watching that one.